Yes.
Good, good. Harold is our performance management expert, so he is going to give us our tour today. And just to brag on Harold a little bit, he has been in the HR industry for probably more years than he cares to admit. However, he does have his SPHR, so he kind of gets what y'all are up against in terms of HR expectations from corporate. So he is an excellent source of information and can really give us a good overview of the performance management system today, and then also can talk to the needs for an HR system should, you know, we get further down the line with that as well.
Okay. That's perfect.
So I think our time today probably will last between 30 to 45 minutes. We, again, know the value of your time. And really what we want to make sure that we do today is answer all of your questions about the product. So as we're going through the presentation, please don't hesitate to stop and ask.
Okay, we'll do.
Great. All right, Harold, it's all yours. Thanks.
All righty. And April and I talked a little bit before this. I'm going to go ahead and record this for her, and I can put that, I can deploy it out to her. And she has some other folks she'd like to see this presentation after we're finished, so I'm just going to go ahead and record this session here today.
Okay. You're so good, Harold.
All right, so let's go ahead and get started here. And I took us to the login screen first. And can you see my screen okay?
I
Yes.
can.
Uh-huh.
So you can see the website that says PerformancePAM Talent Management?
Yes.
All right. So this is the login page to the PerformancePAM product. It is a web-based product, so it's thin client. All someone needs is Internet Explorer or some other browser to be able to log into it. One of the things that I wanted to share with you is really the customizable features. And really any word that you're going to see on any screen that I show you here today is fully customizable. So we could change this logo, of course, in the top left-hand side. We could change the wording here. If you just want to call it Performance Appraisal Online or something along those lines, you could. So really anything here you can change. And I just wanted to show you real quick here. Behind the scenes, I have the admin tool open. The admin tool is really restricted just to those admin folks that would put in new performance templates, scoring keys, and have the ability to customize the menus and options. And you can see here, if I go in and change this information, if I call this something else, that would reflect on the web page dynamically. So every single detail that we see, we're going to be able to change the wording and the names of all of that information.
Okay.
I'm going to go ahead and log in first as a supervisor, just to show you from a supervisory perspective what we can see, what we have the ability to give permissions for supervisors to see. Really within the application itself, there's three main roles. There are supervisory roles, which as a supervisor, they can log in, they can perform performance reviews on their employees, review historical data on their employees, including performance reviews, and generate reports. From the second view, the employee view, as an employee, I can log in and review my data. So I could go in, if I have to score my own performance review, we can have employees do that or sign off on a review. We can have employees go in and look at their history. And also, there is a goals page and journal entry page for employees to track their goals, have shared goals from their supervisors, and also have a journal page that they can enter their own journal entries, kind of like a notes page for them if they wanted to jot a note down of something that may have happened on the job, let's say, and maybe a goal they've achieved. They have the ability to do that. The third role within the application is the administrative role, and that's really the HR team having the ability as the HR team to go in and look at all employees, review employee records, do mass approvals of performance appraisals, perhaps initiate performance appraisals. These are more the admin tools that we have the ability to do, and that would be primarily or typically the HR team. I'm going to log in here as Albert, and one of the first things that we'll see for Albert is where it took us for the very first time is the Activity Center telling us all things that need to be accomplished by this particular person. So Albert actually has some, he has to do some scoring on a 90-day appraisal for Mary, and he's the editor of that as well. You'll notice the editor here, I only have one item that needs scoring, but that's myself. We do have the ability for supervisors or even the HR team, whoever the case may be, we have the ability to allow other people to score appraisals. So let's say I'm an employee supervisor and I'm scoring the appraisal, but I want someone else's input or maybe two other supervisors' input because this employee worked with those other two supervisors over the course of the year. I could have the ability to release that to other supervisors, and you would see on this screen that I would have other scoring due to other supervisors sending me performance appraisals. So you do have that capability.
Okay, that's good because there's a couple of employees that actually do work a lot of times with, one particular supervisor in one group, so it's not just defined to their group only.
Gotcha. Okay.
The other question that I have is that we have some employees that are not truly designated as supervisors. However, they do supervise, they kind of supervise the work of the employee.
Okay.
So they have been, they actually do put the input on the performance evaluation. So could it just, could we have sort of a delegation to, a couple of employees that actually are doing some type of, they actually do have to score on the performance evaluation?
Yes, what we have the ability to do is build generic rules or your overall rules of how scoring works and who scores what types of appraisals. And then we can also on the fly customize that. So we can say, well, for this group of individuals, they go specifically to these people for approvals and scoring. So we can build that. We also have the ability as an HR admin, when we assign a new appraisal for someone, let's say Mary needs to have a new performance appraisal, we could also on the fly assign that to a supervisor or a person that's not particularly their direct supervisor in the directory tree itself.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Now, for your performance appraisals, how do your appraisals work? Is it primarily supervisor and employee? Do you have peer reviews or additional supervisor reviews? How does that work?
It's just the employee and the supervisor.
Okay.
So we do the employee will do their self-evaluation, and then we have the supervisor, and then the employee and supervisor have their one-on-one, and then to discuss, how the supervisor came to what they came to, and then if there is a something that maybe the supervisor forgot, there's a section in there to change that, and then we have SMART goals and all of that. So yeah, it's typically just the one. However, that's what we're normally doing, but I would really like to include maybe doing some peer reviewing or doing an actual 360 review, so you have other people involved in the process.
Okay. Okay. This does accommodate peer or even down to 360 reviews. We can define what a 360 review would look like, who would be the approvers. We can allow, if we wanted to, and again, really the strength of the system lies in not just the complete customization of what you can see and not see, but also what you permit supervisors and other reviewers to be able to do and not do in the system. For example, I could allow supervisors to create a new appraisal on their own, or we can lock those settings down so that the HR team is in charge of releasing those reviews. And you could do that by review type. So you could say, well, any supervisor could go in and initiate a new 90-day appraisal, whatever they wanted, or maybe a generic appraisal, let's say. But maybe when we're doing our annual reviews, that's something that we want the control to lie in the HR's hands. We can have that deployed just by HR. We can also define what a supervisor can do in regards to deploying this out and sharing reviews with other folks. We can lock that down entirely, or we could say, well, no, have Albert Albright, when he's scoring, to have the ability to assign other scores to that particular review. So we do have that capability as well. So from a 360, we can build the full rules into who would be doing those reviews, the employee, the supervisor, peers. We can define that as well. Now, from a approval methodology, once the employee and supervisor meet and that they both sign off and acknowledge that the performance review is accurate to their knowledge, does that go anywhere else in the food chain, or is that final approval?
No, that's final approval.
Okay.
And then it comes to me.
Gotcha. Okay. And we could do that as well. At that point, once there's final approval, you'd be notified of that as HR. So from your perspective, I'm going to go in as an HR admin and show you what HR admin can do. But you could track the status of all appraisals. You'd get alerts and acknowledgement when appraisals are finished, so you can process them as well.
Okay.
Now, on the left-hand side, again, like I mentioned, all the different menu items are customizable. So we're calling this the Activity Center, and in the Activity Center, we're seeing all the different things that are due right now. Now, I could go here to my All Work, and that's really my Activity Center, but I can also say, well, let's look at all reviews that are coming due. Well, I've got 3 open appraisals that are past due, and I can see that information there. I could go and say, what are the various appraisals that were from others that were sent to me. Right now I don't have any, but I might be looking, someone might be looking for me to score, and I can navigate to the other supervisors' appraisals by clicking for scoring. So I can go right down through any of these menu items or say All Work to see what is directly needs to be initiated by me right now. Down below this Albert's profile, this is my personal information. This would show me my personal history for appraisals by my supervisor and myself, my goals, my journal entries. We do have the ability to track appointments in here if we want to, and then also any analytics or reporting that I have access to. And if I were to go in here, I don't think he has any, but this would show us a historical listing of all the appraisals that we've provided to Albert Albright with the year, the type, what the ratings were, so on and so forth here. And I'll show you a specific employee and we'll look as well. I can also look at my goals. This is a list of goals for Albert. These can be cascading corporate goals. These can be individualized goals. So if we build some cascading goals from the corporate level or maybe a department or division level, we can cascade them down to employees as well. For any of these goals, we can track the status of those goals. This is just a fairly plain vanilla goal, just saying improve management skills. Very, very plain vanilla. We can track the progress to goals, whether it's completed or not, and I'll show you that as we get into this. We can also track, oh, I went a little too far there. Journals. A journal entry would really be something that either a supervisor could enter or perhaps an employee could enter, where I could say, all right, I want to add a journal entry, and it's nothing really but a free-form note area, where I could go in and say, well, I want to make a comment on Albert Albright's attendance, 3 months without any issues with time off or sick time or something along those lines. And we want to make note of that for review perhaps at the end of our review period. We can enter journal entries here, which are really notes. Appointments allow us to do just that. We could schedule an appointment. I could add an appointment here for, let's say perhaps the review for the employee and supervisor. They're going to meet together on such and such a date. We can enter that in here and pick the attendees as well. And I'll get to analytics in a second. The analytics is a fairly new feature of the system. We do have standard reports in here, but we also have some new built-in analytics for the HR team, for a supervisor, to be able to see where the various statuses of their appraisals are, and some statistical figures as well. And I'll show you that as we get into it. Down at the bottom, this browse is really, again, for supervisors. For a supervisor, they can go out and browse their team. So I have, as Albert Albright, as a supervisor, I have 4 employees that I manage. Now, I've also turned on in the system the ability for supervisors to see not just their direct reports, but also their indirect reports. So I can see that James Eagle, with this little additional people here icon, this tells me that James Eagle manages others. And I can click on that, and I can see any of the 6 folks that James Eagle manages as well, and look at their history. So you could turn that direct or indirect feature off if you wanted to. But this is showing me all my direct employees as well as indirect.
Okay,
I can click on any. Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, so for example, our president, he could have all of his direct reports, and then under his direct reports, they could actually see his managers could see that he could actually see all of us under that attached to every one of his direct reports.
That is correct.
So for example, like my supervisor directly reports to the president. So if we looked at his name, he could actually see our team.
That is correct. Yeah, and
okay, cool.
You can find that the president could see all the way down the directory tree. So they go all the way down, supervisor by supervisor, down to an employee that doesn't supervise anyone. That's correct.
Okay, cool. All right, I like that. Okay.
We can also do direct searching. I could do a direct search for employees if I have quite a large team. This is showing us here all of my employees. But if I have a large group of folks that I can see direct or indirect, let's say the president, I could go in and do a direct search on employees. I can also do a direct search on appraisals too. So I could say I want to look at all of the 2009 appraisals for such and such an employee, or I could just say on all employees it would show us all the appraisals here. So I'd be able to look by appraisal or by team member, either one.
Okay, I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Now, say, when we start this, can we put our past performance appraisals in there? Or no, this would be something we would have to, going forward, we could track them. We would have all of this historical information. Usually
for most customers, it's moving forward. We could build prior appraisals in here and go through the process of getting the appraisal history in. And we could also potentially import that. Now, to import it, I typically work with the software provider directly. This is Perryman Associates, and I would work with them to pull that in. But if we had the data somewhere in an electronic format, we should be able to get it in.
Okay. No, ours are on paper. That's what that's what I was kind of wondering. And it's not. It's the way that we're currently doing. I don't think that people. I think people are kind of tired of the way that we're doing it.
Yeah.
So this would be fun. Starting fresh. I just wanted to, if that was something that we could do, but this would be the first time that we're actually, I hope that we decide to go, this route, but I think this would be sort of the best way that we could track performance evaluations going forward. Okay, that's fine. Thank you.
Yeah, not a problem. And I've had customers ask me, and I've had one that I think they've actually hired a temp to put, I think, the last 2 or maybe 3 years in. And again, they were working with hard copy forms as well, and they just went in. As an HR admin, we have access to everyone, so we can go into a person, we can click Add New Appraisal, put the year of the appraisal in, and just go ahead and fill it out, matching the form that we have. So again, if you wanted to put them in, you could. That would be a manual process.
Okay. Somebody might ask me, so just so thanks for that. So just in case, because somebody might ask me, well, can we do, can we put that in there? I could say, well, yeah, we could if we wanted to.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, all right, great, thank you.
All right, so let's get into the meat of this. Let's look at appraisals. Now, I'm going to tell you that from an appraisal perspective and appraisal templates, I really stress the amount of customization you can do here, because you can have as many different types of appraisals that you want. You can have as many different templates as you want. And I typically ask people, or I ask them how many templates they have. I tell them that we have all this capability of unlimited. And I typically hear that, oh, we have only a few templates or a few different types of appraisals. So let me ask you, how many different appraisals might you have?
Just one.
Just one appraisal. Okay.
Yep, just one appraisal.
So, and you can see here, I have two different appraisals just for Mary. I have an annual appraisal I should be doing and also a 90-day. And each appraisal can have different criteria, and each criteria can have different scoring templates as well. So we can get very, very customized here. From a criteria template perspective, what we're looking at on this 90-day appraisal is each of the different headers of my appraisal, and then each of the different criteria. So I should be scoring based on, let's say, for example, planning and organization. And I have some bullet points here, and then I have a score. I would essentially just go right down and score all of this appraisal. And you can see I've scored this entire appraisal, but I'm going to go in and show you what this inside detail looks like. Scores can be weighted. We can do weighted averages for scores. Do you do weighted averages now?
No.
Okay. So we could turn that feature off or keep it on. It's up to you. We don't have to put weights to values. There's a couple ways the scoring system works here. We can put weights to each criteria. We can put weights to the folks that are actually doing the scoring. So if I have 3 people scoring this employee, their primary supervisor and then 2 additional people that they worked with, I could say, well, the primary supervisor has a weight of 60%, and then the 2 secondary folks have individual rates of 20%, and that total rate being 100% weight. So we can weight the scorers to a template, or we can also weight individual scores as well.
Ah, okay.
There's a lot of ways we can weight those averages. I'm going to go in and click on this planning and organization skills. And what we're going to see in the detail, we're going to see that exact same item detail up top on the left-hand side, and then on the right we would score this accordingly. Down at the bottom, we have the ability of entering notes. We can make notes required for certain criteria. So if we said, well, planning and organization, we absolutely want to have notes in there. So when someone scores, we want them to enter a comment. We can also require comments on specific scores. So I could say, well, if someone's getting a 3, I don't necessarily need a comment on that. But if I'm scoring a 1, we need to know why that person's getting a 1 or a 4, kind of outside the boundaries of a standardized scoring. We need to know why, so they need to put comments. So you can build requirements based on the score as well.
Okay.
Now let's say I scored this as a 1, and I have some comments here, but let's say I didn't have any comments. Now I'm the supervisor, I'm scoring a 1, and I'm kind of searching for words to say here, and I'm kind of coming up with a lack of the right wording I want to put in here. Well, we have this phrases tool, and what the phrases tool does is pop up another little dialog box that provides suggested phrases based on the score and based on the item detail that we had. So we can build phrases for each score. So you'll notice here, for planning and organization, when I score a 1, it provides us with these phrases. When I say 3, it actually provides us with a dynamic list of different phrases based on the score. So really what we're doing is we're just giving some suggested phrases to supervisors to make their life a little easier to put information in here. So maybe this person fails to seek training on current admin methods. I could enter that in there right now. And now I can also edit that, should be attending quarterly training. So it's a great basis to get the supervisor started on putting comments in the system. The system also, once we save this particular score, will check with a word checker whether the words that we use are valid words. Now I'm going to say that this is not a spell checker. It's actually a word checker. It looks for words that you restrict from a performance appraisal, and those words are based to you. Now the system itself comes with some standard words, so if I type the word stupid in here, for example, and I'm trying to save this, the system would say, hey, you cannot use that word. It's restricted in a performance appraisal. And you can customize that list to be whatever you want them to be.
Okay.
Now if I save and close here, it takes me back to my main area. However, I could have just stayed right in that appraisal just by staying in this detail, clicking next, and just paging right through the different entries and different details and scoring accordingly. So I can go right down through and score these items. The other thing I want to share with you here is, for most performance appraisals, this is the heart of the appraisal. This is the criteria and the scores. Within the application, however, this is just one component of the appraisal. We have abilities to add sections to the appraisal. And you'll notice here I have this go-to section item, and you'll notice that the performance form is just the first of many different sections that we're providing the supervisor and the employee. Once I've finished scoring this, I can page forward to the next section, which is a notes section. So you had referenced that when the employee and supervisor meets, if there's any additional notes they need to take, or maybe there's some additional wording they have to phrase, we could put that in an additional notes section. And we could call this, again, whatever we want. If you don't like the words additional notes, we can call it whatever you'd like. Other sections, we could put notes in from an HR application. Or additional pieces of information from an HR application. So we can integrate this with other HR applications, pull this data down, and really depending on how we, well, two things. One, what type of data you hold in your HR application, and two, what type of data you want to send down to this application. We can bring in notes, training history, skills, prior pay and job rates or job history. It's really dependent on what you wanted to get out of HRMS. We have a notes area for future goals, and we can actually go right into the employee's goals sheet here and click on goals and add goals for this person's appraisal. We can add additional performance notes, just a lot of free-form areas for us to add as much as we'd like to this appraisal. We can also specify recommendations to the appraisal. So if the supervisor is making a salary increase recommendation, they could do that right within the application here. So I can see that this employee is currently making $20 an hour. I could go out here and say, well, I want to give this person an increase. I'm not quite sure what type of increase based on the review. I could go in and do what-if scenarios to say, okay, let's see what happens if I do a 3% increase. That would be $1 extra, $24 per pay, or about $1,200 per year. Okay, how about a 3.5% increase? And again, it would update accordingly. So if I like that increase and hit OK, you'll notice the system auto-populates my recommended changes. I can also recommend changes to a new job title or promotion within a department, or maybe transfer to another department, all right here as well. And this is more informational. Once the approval happens over on the HR side, we'd see this recommended changes information. Here's our sign off. We would click acknowledge to acknowledge and sign off. We don't have the employee, they haven't acknowledged this yet, so because they haven't acknowledged it, we're not going to acknowledge here. But this is just some examples of the different sections you can add to a performance appraisal. And actually, if I go back, let me go back to my all work and show you the annual appraisal. The annual appraisal is actually a little bit different. You can see here it has instructions. We're putting some initial instructions here for supervisors to walk through the annual appraisal. We're providing them with training history from our HR application. We're providing them with the actual performance review, which this one is called Performance Factors, and you can see it looks completely different as well. So you can see you could completely customize this however you wish it to be. Some of the other items here. The ratings themselves, again, are customizable. We can make the ratings whatever you see fit. So if you use 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, we can do that. If you don't use numbers, we can change it that it's letters related. One criteria, this particular question could be ranked 1 through 3. The very next question could be on a scale of 1 through 5. So you can customize the score based on each criteria as well. So you can get very, very specific to items within the performance appraisal here. This particular one is actually ready for sign-off as well, and you can see here, this was already verified and acknowledged by the supervisor. I already verified and acknowledged it. the employee actually has not acknowledged it yet, so they would have to go in and sign off on this and say, yes, I do approve this, and then at that point, the supervisor and the employee would sit down and they'd go through the review. Or once we go through the review, we both would sit here and acknowledge this together. I've also, from an actual kind of process perspective, I've worked with clients that say, you know, to get people acclimated in the system, we're not quite sure, you know, how ready they're going to be to sit down together and walk through this on a web-based tool. Is there a way we can print out the document once the supervisor fills it out, the employee fills it out, and then they just come in here and sign off? And the answer is yes. You know, I can go right up here to printing, and I can print an appraisal form. I can print out a summary form based on the criteria. We can customize these forms, and actually when you purchase the application, the software provider actually customizes these two forms based on your needs. So however your form looks, if you want it to look and feel the same way, these forms can look the exact same way as well. Let's go back. I want to show you here. This is one that's ready to be signed off, so I can't do any more work on that one. Let me go to our 90-day. I did mention that from a supervisor capability, if you want to give supervisors the ability to edit or forward the appraisal, they can do so. So you can see underneath Manage here, Manage, I would have the ability potentially to assign this to additional reviewers if I wanted to. You'll see here that if I select a view of show me everyone that's reviewing these particular items, you can see that I have the same performance appraisal, the same template, and I would see for the criteria the scores by both the supervisor and other reviewers, including the employee. So I could sit down with Mary at this time and say, okay, here's how I scored it, a 1, you scored it a 3. Let's have a discussion about that. Okay, down here, our criteria is pretty close. You know, the next area we both completely agreed. So we can review not just our own performance appraisal reviews, but what other folks scored this on as well. And you also notice that we're building a score based on these reviews as well. And that score can be weighted or based on the reviewers. Now, this particular menu system, I don't have it turned on that the supervisor can deploy this out. That would be an HRMS job, but I do have the ability to change this to say, well, I want to go have the supervisor assign additional reviewers to this performance appraisal. You can lock down or open up as much or as little as you want. One area I didn't show you before is an appraisal attachment area. We can attach any document, a Word document, an Excel spreadsheet, maybe a PDF, to this particular performance appraisal. So I could go out here, click Add Attachment, and go out and find a particular document out on our server or our local drive somewhere, and it would attach that to that appraisal. So if you had some documentation that you had as a Word document, for example, or maybe a training certificate that was scanned in or emailed, we can attach that right to the appraisal. If I look at goals here, let this refresh, you'll notice that I'm looking at the goals for Mary. These are her goals for the whole entire year. And she's completed one of the 4 goals we have assigned to her. If I go and click Add Goal, we have the ability within the system to add a goal. Now, this does have the ability to say cascading goals. I'm not seeing that here. This must be the last version of their system. I apologize. We're actually looking at this through a remote desktop to the Perryman website themselves. So we do have the ability of putting goals in that can be individualized for the person, or if it's a cascading goal, a goal from the corporate level or a divisional level, we would be able to see that as well. Let me show you just the behind the scenes of how this is working. Really, the application itself has an admin tool, like I mentioned before. and this is that admin tool here. This is the actual application for an HR admin where we would be able to go in and customize just about anything. We can customize the phrases to use, like I showed you before, the reserved words or disallowed words and phrases, our different criteria for our templates, our scoring keys. Let me show you some of that. So this is a scoring key. This is the Admin Assistant Performance Review. I can go up here and do a search and find any of the templates that we have. We have Admin Assistant, a Sales Manager one, all different types. It's unlimited in the number of performance reviews that you can enter in the system. From here, we're looking at header records and then each of the criteria. And then with criteria, if I open up the criteria, I can assign a category to it, a scoring key for that particular criteria, and a weight or value if we're weighting. This is free-form text. We have all the standardized formatting features, so we can make things bold, italic, underline, change the color of an item, whatever we see fit here. Now you'll notice that this particular template, each of the criteria, the scoring key is empty. And the reason for that is we're using the same scoring key all the way through, and then you can see that up here. We're using one scoring key for the entire template, which is pretty much the norm for most folks. However, you can take this particular item and say, well, no, I want a very specific scoring key for that, and it's this particular scoring key. And it would override the overall scoring key for this appraisal. Speaking of scoring keys, we have the ability of building scoring keys however we see fit. So here's a 1, 3, 5 scoring key with definitions to each. We can also define whether or not we require comments for those scoring keys. So we could say, well, if someone, let's actually look at a different scoring key, one that has a couple more values. Let's look at another one here. They've added a lot of scoring keys to this one. You can see here for an item that uses this scoring key, this competency key, we've got 1, 2, 3, and 4. And the 1s and the 4s require comments. So if I scored a 2 or a 3, don't need to leave a comment. If I scored it a 1 or 4, I would need to leave a comment on that particular score. We can also build cross-reference tables to define which organizational levels or which job codes have which templates. So if you had multiple templates, or in the future look to divide up some of your templates more job-related or departmental-related, let's say, you could say, well, everyone in this particular job title or everyone in this particular department utilizes this annual performance review versus another review. So that's a little bit of the admin tool. Now, we also have the ability as an HR admin to log into the website as HR admin. So let me show you that real quick. So we can see from an HR admin perspective, we can go down through and look at any of our team members if we are, and this is going to be a hierarchy from the top down. Don Adams happens to be the president. I could drill down to Don. I can see the people that report to him. There's that Albert fellow that we've been looking at. I can drill down all the way into specific employees. So an HR admin person logging in really has access to everything. I can also go out and I can look at all open appraisals. This is showing me where everyone sits for their appraisals currently. We've got a lot of different employees here that need to get their appraisal scored, their annual appraisal scored. We have a couple that are sitting at the approval stage, and we have one sitting in the HR final approval area. This particular system is utilizing a same type as you, the manager-employee approach, but then once it gets forwarded to HR, HR puts the final approval on it. Okay. So I can look at any of these as they go through, and I can track the status. I can also nudge managers as well. The system does have a built-in message center. Let's see if I have any actual good messages. There we go. This would alert us to let us know in the message center that people are doing the work they're supposed to be doing. Here it's showing us Albert Albright has submitted the score for Virgil Brown's appraisal. So we can see that message, when it was sent, etc. From an HR perspective, well, let me ask you this. For your performance appraisals, do you do annual appraisals?
Yes, it's just annual.
And is it the same time frame for everyone, or is it based on anniversary?
No, it's the same time for everyone.
Okay. From an HR admin perspective, we would have the ability for appraisals. I could go out and deploy all the appraisals. So I could go in the system here and say, go ahead and create a performance appraisal for, let's say, October 1st of 2012 for all of the employees in the system. It would create the appraisal, set the appraisal up, and then notify the employee and the supervisor that the appraisal is out there waiting for them to score.
Oh, I like that.
So we can do it all really in one fell swoop here. The last area I wanted to show you here was that analytics tool. The analytics tool is, like I said, it's fairly new to the system. So there's only a few analytics in here right now, and they're always asking clients for suggestions on where to improve this and what should they add to this analytics area. But we have some different, really some different analytics. Now I'm looking at it from an HR admin perspective. Individual supervisors would see these pie charts based on their own employees. We're looking at it from a global perspective. So we're looking at appraisals by status here. We've got 2 on the approval stage. We've got 7 that need score. 3 needs final approval here. We're looking at competency scores. So if let's go down a little bit here. This is weighted average scores based on the different competencies that we've defined within our performance appraisal. So we're seeing globally how our folks square away on the different scores. We can look at folks that have overdue. The sample data is a little old here, but we've got 27 people that are past due over 30 days for their appraisal. And then finally down here we can look at appraisals by supervisor. Where appraisals for each supervisor sit as well. So we're seeing that there's a large group that are, for Albert, actually it's Don Adams, that are past due here. So again, the analytics tool is a nice set of charts and graphs kind of expressing some of the different information for the performance reviews in summary form. And again, they're always looking to expand this. This has actually really only been in the system about 8 months or so. Okay, with that being said, you know what? The one other area I didn't really show you. Let me go ahead and open up an employee here. Now, again, this is HR admin, so I'm seeing everyone in our organization. I could go out, and if I wanted to look at Albert Albright, I could look at his information. I can create an appraisal on the fly for him right now if I wanted to. I have some profile information on Albert. Maybe I don't. Maybe I don't have it linked. Let's log back in as... Let's see if we have Mary here. If not, we'll log back in as Albert Albright. So I'm going to drill down to Mary. Yeah, I don't have it turned on for HR admin. HR admin, if we could restrict things or leave everything open. For some reason, this sample data has everything restricted. Let's log in as Albert, and I'll show you here. So as Albert, I can go out to my team. I can open up a team member, and you'll notice I have a couple other additional items up here for these folks. I can look at an overview. Now, I've given the supervisor the ability to create an appraisal on the fly. You don't have to do that, but I, as this person's manager, can go in and pick up an appraisal and create a new appraisal for this person if I wanted to. Let's go back to Mary. Other things that we could share with supervisors or anyone in the system. This is showing us some current information on the employee. This information we've actually imported in from the HR system, so no need to dual entry here. We can import this information. Attendance records. If we wanted to bring attendance records in from another third-party application, we could potentially do that. This is showing us all the different attendance transactions and also the summary information for each of the plans. So I could click here for vacation regular. It's showing us all the different time they've taken plus their history. I'm also providing job history here, so we're looking at the various job history for this person, showing all the different pay rates they've had, all the different job title changes they've had throughout the course of time as they've been employed with the organization itself. So we do have a large number of different areas and entries that we could populate here for employees and then also for supervisors to review. Do you have any questions on any part of the system, maybe something I may have missed or something that you do particularly with your appraisals that I didn't explain how it might be done here?
No, this has been very informative. And I can see how we could definitely adopt this. We could adopt this method.
Okay, great.
It's a lot. It's definitely a lot easier in terms of how we currently do it.
Yeah.
This would be much more efficient, I think, as well as a lot easier, I think, on the employees because there's, and also from the manager side of things, especially on the recommendation in terms of the salary information. That's definitely something because normally what I have to do is I have to then turn around and deploy another set of instructions for the supervisors to think about after the performance evaluation has already been done. Then we have to that second step. So I could actually kind of this is all taken care of in one step.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Okay, now what we don't, now this is the thing, we do not have an HR, we don't have an HRIS at all.
Okay.
What we have is we have a PEO relationship with Insperity.
Gotcha. Okay.
So some things I typically, what I have to do is I have to go into the self-service area and I can pull reports and then I basically will meld them together in order to get certain things like, pay history and all of that. So if the president during the, salary process, during the performance evaluation process, if he, say wants to see, for the last, 2 or 3 years what anybody has, I actually have to go back and kind of recreate that information. So this seems to be a lot easier in terms of some of the stuff that we can actually see. Now, if I were to get, say some pay information, would we be able to, old pay history, would we be able to put that in here?
Yes, and there's a couple different methodologies to get it in. What I would do on my end prior to, you approving the purchase of an application like this is I'd work with the folks at the software provider, Perryman Associates, to make sure they have the ability to pull in from Insperity. My guess is you're probably exporting it to like a spreadsheet or CSV file, and then we'd import that way. I do have a relationship with Insperity as well. I know a bunch of folks at Insperity, so we can have those conversations up front.
Oh, okay, good. That's kind of like the biggest thing is just because I want to be able to. I want the supervisors to be able to have some history in there. Sure. So that they can, as they're making their own, as they're making their recommendations, that that they can actually see it. And that way, I don't have to go the extra step. We can provide the instructions at the very beginning, and then they can simply make their recommendations, and then that goes back. I have one additional question. How many administrators can we have? I can think of probably maybe 3 people. It would be myself, the CFO, and the president. Those are the only 3 people that would probably have or would want to have administrative access.
Yeah, and that's perfectly fine. Again, from this perspective here, within this particular item, the admin information, I can go in and set up, users and provide with a particular security access to that, to meet my needs. So I could have additional, I just have an admin user here, but I could have additional users and define what their access to the admin setup tools are.
Oh, okay.
Well, and I think something else too that you might think about is if you choose to go forward with the PerformancePAM product, then it might make sense down the road, and you and I talked about this in our original conversation, was possibly adding the HR piece of the Sage product, so it would be a seamless integration.
Yes, yes.
And flow from one to the other. Yeah.
Yes. Because I foresee us being able to, I mean, currently that would be something that it would be instrumental to me now, but I can definitely see this in the future. Should we leave Insperity, that would be something we already, sort of already have in place.
Right. And we can pull the information over from Insperity, and of course Harold said that, he has got that relationship with them as well. So, that's an easy dump into the Sage product, the Sage Abra product.
Now, how, we only have 60 people. So is it sort of like one product that we would be able to use, or is it one that we can expand on? So, say if we get to be, I don't know if we'll ever get to be like 300 or 500 people, but, is this something that we could actually use starting now, and then this could be something as we grow? Or
Absolutely.
we start with like a smaller product, and then we could then, get a bigger product later?
No, you would just grow with this product. That's the nice thing about this solution, is it doesn't pigeonhole you. Okay. So what you saw today is everything that you would receive delivered with the software.
Okay. I like it. Now, I used a form of Abra a long time ago when I first got into HR.
Right.
And I cannot remember. And it had the capability of it was a fairly user-friendly program. We were able to capture, and this was, I was interning for a small association, so they only had like 100 people at the time. And I don't know, is this the same Abra solution product? Is it Abra probably just a different, I mean, of course it's a different product maybe, but is Abra still the same Abra that I used back in like 2003, 2004?
Probably. However,
okay.
It has greatly enhanced itself since then.
Yeah, I don't remember it being quite this elaborate, but I do remember it being very easy.
Well, for your employee size, it's a great solution for HR tracking and payroll for that matter. Yeah.
Okay.
And, should we need to go and look at the product, we can just jump on another demo with Harold, and he can speak to the integration of the two solutions and show you how that would work.
Can we look at it?
Harold, do you have time to look at it today? What's your time frame? I know that we had set this time.
Yeah, I actually don't. I do have a hard stop at 1:30, but just so you know, from a general perspective, this Performance Appraisal Management tool was built specifically to integrate with the Abra tools. So as you can see here, it has a direct connection with the Abra products. I mean, we build all the connections for Abra right in it. So it integrates seamlessly with the Abra tools. All other items we would basically define, like with Insperity, or if you had a spreadsheet of data, we would do an import using the import utility here. Let's see if I have just from a...
We also are implementing TimeStar, which I just realized is also your product. So does Insperity use this product right here, the PAM, PerformancePAM?
When you say do they use it, I'll give you a kind of a quick history. You're implementing TimeStar. TimeStar was a company called Galaxy Technologies, and Galaxy was acquired by Insperity about 3 years ago. And that's I have a very long-term relationship with all the folks at Galaxy TimeStar because they were actual agribusiness partners back in the day. So I know a lot of folks at the organization.
Okay.
So that's kind of where my connection with Insperity is. So I use Insperity. I have a lot of customers that use Insperity TimeStar for their timekeeping product. Does this connect and integrate? Really, what we need to find out is what can they provide, and I can have some conversations, like I said, offline with the folks at Perryman, because the folks at Perryman Associates also knows the folks at Galaxy quite well as well. So we can do a little digging on the back end and see what it would take to integrate and what level and degrees of integration they have.
Okay.
Okay.
We've all worked with everybody as long as we've been in this industry. We've either sold it or we've worked with it, and I sell the Galaxy product, so it's a great product.
Okay.
You're in good hands.
Okay.
You're in
well,
good hands.
I think this would be a really useful tool for us, to be honest, because it's not going to be difficult for them to kind of use once we deploy it. So I just need to now just be able to have the HR group look at it, and then from the HR group, then it would go to our senior management team, and if they don't have a problem with it, then we could go ahead and start talking about you know, when we could have this implemented.
Sure. And I'm going to send you all of the pricing and everything right now, just so that you have it.
Okay.
For you to review. And then what we'll do is, if we need to jump on an HR demo a little bit further down the line, we can do that as well.
Yeah, that would be great. I think that would be very useful. Just so that, and I will go, what I'll do is during my, we have an HR meeting coming up in the next 2 weeks. So what I would like to do is kind of, you know, that way they can look at this particular demo now, and then I can actually go ahead, Julie, and kind of set them up with explaining that we should be looking at having sort of our own, you know,